Hey guys, it's me, Dr. Jennifer Otter Bickerdike, and welcome to this episode of ITMI. Now, on this episode, we take the audio from a masterclass that I did on our BIMM London campus with none other than Donna Missal. Now, if you hear any ambient noises, it's because there was 100 plus people packed into this auditorium. Donna is so inspirational, and she has many reasons to be. She's 28 years old, and she just now is having a breakout hit with her song Keep Lying. Now, she's done all kinds of collaborations with people including Macklemore, and she's right now on a tour of the UK and the EU, and I think she'll be coming back later in the year, so definitely be on the lookout for her. I really hope you enjoy this. I went in thinking, I like her, and then literally left. I was hugging her. She was just so fantastic, so I hope you find her as amazing as I did. Listen to this, enjoy, take care, and thank you again.
Music has been beyond informative to me in my life, but absolutely necessary. And it's songs like that delve into places that feel very deeply personal, that have made the biggest impact on me as a listener and as a fan of music. So in making my own, it's really important to me that I understand that I want that to be part of it. It's about, for me, sharing these personal experiences that when you do share them, you get the opportunity to hear from the people that experience that with you, that it's universally felt, and that these things are not, these thoughts and these feelings are not mine alone. And I think that that's really powerful about music, it's a connective thread between people who you might not otherwise have any other identifying factors. So I'm realize that's what I'm doing. And it's definitely with a lot of intent.
When you first decided to go that route, was that scary, though, to you? Because you're putting yourself so... I'm going to keep saying this. You're putting... I write. That's what I do. And so when you put something out there you've worked so hard on, it's fucking terrifying, dude. So how do you get over that? How... Or are you just I'm just going to bear it all and like it or not? Because it takes a lot of confidence to do that.
Sure. I wasn't always in a position... emotionally and mentally as a person, at a stable enough place where I felt like I was capable of doing that. And I spent a lot of time holding myself back from expression and expressing myself through music, and even being able to stand behind myself as an artist and say, this is who I am, and I am an artist, and I am a writer, and, having the confidence.
Don, do you think that's part of being a woman, though? Because I find myself, I'm older than you are, and it's strange because I find myself in certain situations, apologizing for myself, and
totally.
You hear yourself doing it, and you're like, what? What
right.
is that?
You would tell, your friend not to be that way, and yet
yes,
you find yourself doing that to yourself.
Yes. Why do you think this is part of being a woman, and that we're kind of socialized to do that?
Absolutely. I think it's one of the intrinsic qualities of women throughout society. We're told that that's the way to behave. We're very apologetic of ourselves and the way that we exist in the world. And I've definitely felt the effects of that throughout my life and throughout my ability to make decisions about where I want to go in life and the things that I want to do. And the way that I go about accomplishing those things has always been, up until very recently, very timid. And I've always been apologetic. And I think that is the way that we're taught to exist. And it's a way to survive, really. I think it's totally a survival tactic, because this is not a woman's world yet.
But I like what you just said. Do you think it was when you just said, or something in you changed, there was that click, and you thought, I'm going to stop apologizing for who and what I am? Because I know I'm 6 feet tall and loud, and people, when I was younger, guys would be like, I wish you didn't talk so much, or I wish you were, and I used to wish, I wished I was smaller, I wished I was something else. And I think that we as women do that. It's we're told what we're not supposed to be, instead of being fuck, there's only one me, and let's just rock on that. And as soon as I started rocking on it, that's when stuff started happening. Is that how it was for you?
Totally. And I find that super inspiring. And I think it takes hearing it from other women, this unapologetic nature. This is relatively new to the way that women are existing now, and I feel like this generation is on the frontier of that. And so it's becoming more and more important that women are taking that stance for themselves. And to even just for you to say that, I'm sure so many young women in this room like weren't even aware that the way that you present yourself, that there was ever a time that you felt you needed to silence yourself or make yourself smaller. I was homeschooled.
Were you?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't seem weird at all.
Trust me.
That, I mean, for you at 28, like that, your parents were on the cusp doing that.
Sure, and it wasn't for any kind of like weird cultish religious, reasons.
You could talk about in public.
Sure, sure. Nothing like that. And actually, ironically, my father worked in public education through my childhood, and I think that actually had a lot to do with it.
Totally get that, yeah.
Because he had this insight into the way that the education system worked, and in the States, it's particularly rough. The system of education there has been broken for a really long time. So my mom just decided she wanted to try some alternative thing and see if it worked, and so she did. And I have 5 siblings.
Where are you in the order?
I'm the second oldest.
You? Okay.
So she did a lot of trial and error with my older sister and I, but my older sister did go to university and graduated, on the dean's list, honor society 2 years early. So we both went in completely different paths as far as like the course of education that we took, and we're both doing like super different things with our lives now, but I don't think homeschooling was the thing that determined, whether or not I would be in the arts. Just in looking at my sister as an example, she works in tech. So but I do think that it had a lot to do with fostering a lot of creativity and weirdness and not being judged by my peers. So a lot of these ideas that we're talking about self-acceptance and about being at a place, of like full confidence in self, like I had that totally as a kid, and that wasn't really wiped out of me until I started becoming more social. And then I had to rebuild it over a lot of years of like dismantling that voice in my head that we all have that tells us like, you are shit, you are not good enough, you need to do this or try this or buy this or change this or be like that person in order to be valued. And I think that the structures around us, the societal structures around us, that's what determines those feelings and those thoughts and those voices in our heads. And that's why it's so important that we are changing the narrative of our society so that those things are no longer standing in between not just women and the things that we want, but all people and the things that we want to accomplish.
So what was in the Donna Missal record collection when you were growing up? Did your parents play lots of records for you?
Definitely. And it was always, my dad actually gravitated towards like strong, like what I call screaming females, like super powerful vocalists. And I think that that's where that initially, inspired me to want to sing that way. But as a teenager, when I was able to like purchase my own CDs, I was really gravitating towards like girl groups, like 90s, early 2000s girl groups. Like I loved TLC, 3LW, Destiny's Child. I've like always really loved pop music, but from the female perspective and from the kind of like girl with attitude perspective. And then that's really seeped into the kind of music that I make and definitely has a lot to do with the kind of person that I am now. But it was very female-centric. I don't devalue music from any one perspective. I just happen to gravitate towards music from the perspective of, people that I understood.
No, that totally makes sense. I mean, one thing that you and I were talking about before, and I was thinking it more and more, the more I stare at you like a weird sex pest, is just you're so naturally pretty. Like you don't have the fake, you don't have the fake lashes, you don't have the foundation, the breasts are tucked away, but you're still very sexy and pretty and powerful, and there's a power in that. Did you ever veer down the road of the fake tan, etc.?
Girl, yeah. I had in Jersey it was like the bump, so you would like take your hair and like take some bobby pins and like bump it up like this. I feel like rough years for me in that sense were like 16, 17, 18. I was like, yeah, totally fake tanner and like the push up. And yeah, I just like really, there was this group of girls I was emulating and I really wanted to fit in with them. And since I didn't go to school, it was like, I really don't want to be the odd girl out. And so I just did whatever they were doing. And it was very uncomfortable. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was not indicative of who I was or how I wanted to present. You mentioned this, I think, but I'm 28 years old. I have spent my entire life so far convincing myself that I missed my shot.
Oh, cool.
That, I mean, this industry really values youth.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that, actually.
Yeah. And I've been an ageist towards myself through my entire experience in pursuing music, and always just told myself, like, no matter what I was doing creatively, that whatever it was, wherever my shot would have been, like, it happened and I missed it and I'm never going to get one again. And it held me back for a really long time. And that had a lot to do with appearance, because I felt like there's so much emphasis on appearance in this industry, especially. But honestly, in every industry, there's an emphasis on the way that women present themselves. And so I always felt the pressure of that combined with the pressure of this ageism. And yeah, I think that my style now has so much to do with that, with just like not thinking of myself as an artist for so long. So I don't present as an artist that you might see typically today. Like, I'm not going to name anyone.
Like, if I could get away rocking a t-shirt and jeans and be as confident as you are, like, I would in a second. But is that part of the brand, or is it more like a fuck it, I don't care? I don't care. I like your videos, like in the grandma bra and stuff. Like,
oh, you like that?
I actually like that bra.
Thank you.
Is that
I styled that one myself.
You?
I wanted to represent, like, look at this crazy shit that women do to just like be not only acceptable, but like to be admired and to be valued. Like, look at this. I find it like super ridiculous, but I also have adhered to it for a really long time. And even find myself now, like, I've like just never claimed to have it all together, like have all the answers. Like, I have to wake up every day like anybody else and like have a shit day and like have a zit. And like, yeah, I mean, we're valued by this, you know, whether, you know, we are cool with that or not. I would love to see that change. And I think it's really important that we do that by just presenting in ways that feel natural and honest. And this to me, like, I mean, sure, I think it's really important if you're pursuing music that you understand, in order to like keep your wits about you and in order to like really apply a perspective to what you're doing that is something that you can separate from yourself as a person a little bit, is to understand like you are a brand. When you pursue music as an artist, you are a brand. And that's what you're out there selling. The brand can be authentically you, and it can be really genuine, but it's important so that you can create a little bit of separation between the person that you are inside and the person that you present as. So like, this is my brand. Now, mine in particular is just like, I wear what I want and I say what I want and I stand up for things that I believe in. And so if that's like a t-shirt today, or, you know, like a little wife beater with no bra tomorrow, like, I will do that unapologetically, but with the understanding that this is my presentation. And so I want to present naturally and authentically and honestly. But I would say it's important to understand also, like, if you're the kind of artist that wants to present, you know, in like the Lady Gaga fashion, where you are taking on a personification, you are becoming a character, like, that's just as authentic and should be valued just as much. This is just the kind of brand, a kind of artist that I am. But in anyone that's looking to pursue this, I think it's super important to understand that that is an aspect of what you're doing.
Yeah, hallelujah. I mean, just going back to the age thing for a quick second, I mean, I always remember Cyndi Lauper was like one of my goddesses when I was growing up. When I was like 8 or 9, I discovered that record. And what sticks in my mind about her, Donna, is that she was 32 when she like broke through.
Right.
And that's still, however many years later, you know, how was there a point when you were like, I'm gonna draw a line at this when I reach this age, or like what made you keep going?
Luckily, no, because I think I would have stopped at like 25 or something. You know, I probably would have thought, oh, that's like it for me. That will be like anything past that, I will have just like lost all my value. But it does help so much to find representation, and that's why I think it's so important that people are represented like all across the spectrum, from age to, you know, sexual orientation, religious affiliate. Like, we need representation across the board so that all people feel like they can accomplish things, and like there are, you know, representations of them out there to say, yes, you can do this. But like, for that example, to hear that you know, helped or inspired you, like is very important that she was a representation of that for you personally. Like, realizing that Sheryl Crow was like 35 when she broke, and she was a school teacher, like had an entirely different life before she ever had success in music, and she's revered as like one of the most important musicians of the 90s. That's really incredible. You know, so I have friends too that I keep very close to me. This artist Sharon Van Etten, who wrote a lot of my record with me and is a huge inspiration to me. She's 35, just had her first kid. She's got a few records behind her. She's now acting for television. She's writing for Comedy Central. She's like really expanding her brand and delving into different things, both in her personal life and in her professional life. And to have her represent that for me has been totally instrumental in changing the way that I view myself. And
you see the possibility of what
the possibilities, yeah. And that, like, I talk about this in my shows because I really I feel this very strongly, but I'm only like getting better the older that I get. I get a little wiser, and I learn more about myself. I figure more out about what I believe in and what I stand for. I understand the world around me and my place in it better the older that I get. And so I'm learning that there's actually, my value is increasing the more years that I have, you know, to stand behind. So I think it's important to remember that, especially, I wish that as I was younger, there was more obvious representation of that, because I think it would have brought me to this realization a lot sooner.
No, I think 35 is an interesting age, because I think 35 is kind of like, you can see 40 like looming in the, you know, that's a little twinkle of the 40. And, you know, I was actually 37 when I moved to this country, and all my friends were like, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing it. Because the idea of possibility of change had closed for them by the time you were that age. And so what your friend is showing is she's a good runway. You can see the runway ahead of you. Is that kind of what you're thinking? Like,
absolutely. And I want to be that for all kinds of people, you know, younger than I, older than I, anywhere in between.
47?
Yeah, girl.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
It's like, when I look above me, I'm like, who do I have to look up to? And I think Sheryl Crow's is a good one, but it's kind of like, you know, the Madonna. I don't want to get off on Madonna because I'll go on and on about that. But like, I feel kind of bad for Madge, because it's like, if I had that body, I'd be walking around naked. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, and I don't know if you've seen the new video, but she's this hot young thing. And, you know,
cute.
Where is she to, like, as a woman, as you get older, you know, like you're saying, you're valuing yourself more.
Yes.
Do you think that it will change so that people will still think, yeah, Madonna is still sexy and amazing at 60, instead of questioning why she's walking around in a bustier?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I think it's important that it does. And it's only through representation that will change. The narrative has been set. The narrative is there. Mm-hmm. Like, women have an expiration date. Men are meant to provide for the woman. The woman is meant to honor her man. Anyone on the sexual spectrum is considered still some deviation of what's normal. Mm-hmm. And that's how it is. That's the structure. And I think we're just realizing more and more, like, wait, like, that doesn't actually represent us. That's not actually real. That's actually this huge fiction that's been around for way too long and caused a lot of people to oppress themselves. And it's bullshit. And it's like ugly and totally ridiculous. And so like, yeah, like Madonna can get it. You know what I'm saying?
Do you say Madonna can go get it?
She can get it.
Yeah, she can. I mean, I was watching it going, ooh, girl, yeah.
Get it, Madonna.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, also, like, it's her prerogative. And
you just dropped a Bobby Brown reference. Do you know that song?
It's
my prerogative. Boom, boom.
Yeah.
The press is obsessed with your sexuality.
Yeah.
Suddenly I am too. But, you know, that's what I know. No. But why is that, you know, why can't you just be, and I was saying to you, it's like I can totally see like the lesbians, the bisexuals, they want to claim you. I mean, you know, but then the straights don't want to give you away. So, I mean, why do you think that is, and how do you walk the line on that?
I think is, like I said, like, anything that isn't heteronormative is still considered this like confusing thing. Like, wait, what? But I was just talking to someone about this today. Like, people have existed on the spectrum forever. It's not new. We haven't decided suddenly, like, you know what? I actually like am non-binary. Like, and that's like a brand new thing, but I'm going to try. It's like, no, that's like always been there. You know, I do identify as bisexual, but it's fucking nobody's business. But if we want to talk about it, like, and I want to see a future in where we're no longer talking about this shit and it's not important, it doesn't come up in interviews, no one wants to pinpoint me for my sexuality, we need to talk about it in the same way that we have talked about heteronormacy forever. So I kind of feel like in order to shut down the idea that the only thing that's normal is to be heterosexual, is to say like, hey, like, I'm normal, I'm, you know, I should be valued, and this is where I am on the sexual spectrum. Like, that's how we start to normalize things, and that's how we start to see the shift and the change, and start breaking down that concept that this is weird and that's not, when really all of it is just normal. We're not there. And so I think that's where the obsession comes from. I think it also goes back to branding and marketing and people wanting to find buzzy concept words that they can paste on people to help tell your story. And it's not malicious. It's just the way that we digest things.
We have to do it that. We have so much information coming at you, you know?
Right. Yeah. So it's like bisexual artist goes on tour with Macklemore. Like, it's buzzy and it interests people because it's not normal.
Expected.
It's not expected.
It's not expected.
But we should get to a point where it's like, oh yeah, that's not even a thing. It's not queer art. It's just art. And that's really important to me. So if the way that we get there is by standing boldly and proudly for where we are on the sexual spectrum, if it is not heteronormative, then like, fuck it. Let's do this. Let's talk about my sexuality, because I'm not afraid, and I feel no shame in who I am or how I feel towards people. So I know that who I am and what I do isn't wrong, and it's all love. And so if I can believe that and help other people believe that and see this as normal, like, that's what I'm gonna do. But I would really love to get to a point where like Billboard Pride isn't like calling me up like, let's do another feature, you know, because for me it feels like it gets to a point where I feel like my brand is getting like saturated by that, and that's not what I am. I'm not bisexual. I'm a human being with thoughts and opinions, concepts, and I have art that I want to make and that I want to show people, and that should be enough.
I mean, this is the nicest way possible. It's like the least interesting part of you.
Thank you.
Does that make sense? It's
like
meh.
Who cares?
Yeah. If people remember one thing from watching you talk today, what's the one thing you want them to remember?
God, that I guess where I am right now and the art that I make and the person that I am is a product of persistence and a lot of patience and a lot of years of getting to know myself. And I would love to help anyone who needs to hear this understand that if it's taking you time, that's okay. And it doesn't mean you won't get there. Just like, if I wish I had more people in my corner saying like, just keep going. Because I had a lot more people saying like, you should probably stop. So if I had listened to those people, I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be doing what I love and what I feel like I'm meant to do. So listen to the voices that are telling you like, just keep pushing, keep going. Yeah, I guess that would be it.
Hey.
Hi.
I was wondering if you have any advice on like how to get away from the queer brand.
Oh, God.
I mean, it's a huge question, isn't it? But
I'm struggling with that, so I'm not sure. I think choosing your opportunities wisely.
But it's not about what we choose, is it, that much?
I suppose, I mean, people will write what they want to write about you, but a lot of times you're approached about, like, would you like to do this interview for this outlet? That outlet is this queer outlet. And you can...
But it feels so weird saying no to that. We're
don't
like,
you,
yes!
Right? This is where I find the
like,
struggle,
fuck.
is that outlets like that are so important because they're shedding light and giving opportunity and giving platform to queer people who for so long have been completely shunned and ostracized, right? So you want to say like, yes, thank you for being a queer voice in this hetero world. It's so important. Then there's the double-edged sword aspect that's like, but shit, I'm so much more than my sexuality. And like, I'm frustrated that this is all you want to talk about. So I just try to make it part of the conversation always when I am approached. Firstly, making sure that the outlet isn't like grimy, making sure that they're not out there to sell something and it's hard to figure out what people's intentions are, of course, but do some research on what the outlet is that wants to talk about it. And if it feels like a genuine opportunity to shed light on an important issue, then involve yourself. And if it doesn't, you're allowed to say no, and you should absolutely say no to things that you just don't feel right about. And then I guess for me, I really don't have a great answer to this, but I try to always make sure to make a point of like speaking about it in a way that's like, yes, this is who I am. Yes, I am proud. We shouldn't be talking about this. I want to get to a point where we are not talking about this. And if you can make that part of your narrative to say like, yes, I will stand beside myself and behind myself as a queer person, but I don't believe that this should be obsessed over in the way that it is, and I want to see that change. It could help. And I think we're at a point now where we're like not sure what the outcome of all of this queer obsession is going to be.
Yeah, for real.
I'm hoping though that the outcome is equality. We don't know if that's going to be the outcome. I would say though that it's better than the alternative, which is the quieting, the silencing of queer people and the disengagement from queer community, which has been, that's been what it's been forever. That's been the normal forever. So we should try it this way and see where we end up.
I think the thing that I find is that I worry that it's a little bit of an echo chamber sometimes. Does that make sense?
Of course.
So when you're saying that, and your question I think is really good, because are we only talking to people that are already on our side? Are we really changing?
Right,
yeah,
right.
that's the thing. So it's almost like not a surprise, like surprise, I'm queer, but it's not the most important thing. It's not the first thing you lead with.
Right.
You know, so I would say to you, as someone that's done marketing, is pick the opportunity. And if you say no, you're not dissing that outlet. You're protecting yourself in a way, I think, too.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're totally right with this, like, everything happening in a vacuum kind of concept where it's like telling other queer people, like, I'm out and proud. Like, what does that do for the queer community really in the vastness of the world? Not that much. So I think you're totally right that answering the question is very important, but doing it in a way that's like really giving a platform where people who don't understand queer culture can get involved in the conversation. That's super important. How that happens, like, if you find out, let me know.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the ITMI podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, don't forget to subscribe, like, give us 5 stars, share with your friends, share with your enemies. We're available on all platforms, including SoundCloud and YouTube. If you have any suggestions, questions, or people you'd like to hear us interview for the podcast, then please drop us a line through our email address that's in the description. Thanks, and catch you next time.